Hello, hello, my brothers and sisters. This is Garrett Bake, your brother in arms, and welcome to another episode of The Tactical Businessman. Today's topic: what does Tiger Woods have to do with you? I'm sure I could probably come up with a better topic, but that's where we're going. Before we get to Tiger Woods, though, I want to talk about something. When I was early on in my police career, you guys have heard me talk about this before. I eventually worked my way into being part of the SWAT team. And what I enjoyed so much about the SWAT team was the training that we got, the extra training, right? And we would spend hours at the range. We'd spend hours doing, practicing different techniques, room clearing domination and flashbangs and all of these extra tools and these extra things that made us better at what we did. We'd have shooting competitions where you'd have to, load a magazine, run to a certain spot, hit a target, run to a different spot, hit another one. And so it was this constant moving and shooting, and it made me a really, really good shooter. And it made me really good in the decision-making process. Like, okay, who's a threat? Who's not a threat? What level of force do I need to use against this individual? These type of things. And the funny thing is, maybe not so funny, but the funny thing is that at that same time, I was also an elite, shitty husband and father. Yes, you heard me right. I was elite at being a cop, a SWAT operator, if you will, the elite of the elite when it came to that world. And at the same time, I was elite at being a shitty husband and father. I was elite at not being able to connect with my wife. I was elite with yelling and screaming at my kids. I was elite at making sure that my home life was a train wreck. There you go. That's all you need to know about me. Now, why am I telling you this? I'm telling you this for a reason. Because you suffer from the exact same thing that I do. You're elite when it comes to business. Or you're really good when it comes to business, or you think you've figured it out when it comes to business. You know what you have to say, how to say it, when to say it. How much money to push into a certain campaign. You know what your cost per clicks are. You know what this is. You know what that. Like, I can go into all these details when it comes to business, regardless of what your business is. Entrepreneur, doesn't matter. After a while, you become pretty good at what it is that you do. You've seen enough of it, you've done enough of it that you become pretty good at it. And so you can at least get the job done. But this crazy thing happens when you get home. And it happened to me too. Is I would come off this high of being at work. I would come off this high of dealing with these bad guys, right? Of using my superior skills and abilities to negotiate a crime or to put a bad guy in jail. And so I would come off this high and I would go home. And what do you think my wife wanted from me? Well, she really didn't want me to show her my gun. She didn't really want to know much about the specific techniques that I'd learned that day. She didn't want to know that I beat John in a shooting competition. No, what she wanted to know was if I was going to help her out with the dishes, or if I was going to change the kids' diapers, or if I was going to vacuum, or if I was going to mow the lawn. Like, these are the things that my wife wanted to know. So here I am in my mind, this elite of the elite, right? I've got these crazy ninja skills, and on TV, people like worship me and they love me and they think I'm this cool thing. And these random strangers thank me every day for what I do. And then I get home and my wife could give two shits about it. Like, none at all. Sound familiar? It should. Because when you get home, your wife is usually saying what? Well, you're home late again. You didn't eat dinner with the family. You missed your son's baseball practice. Your daughter threw up all over the floor. I had to do all the dishes. And you wonder why your sex life is shit. You wonder why you're looking at porn in the bathroom instead of scoring with your wife in bed. Well, wonder no more, my friend. Now, I tell you this again, I'm not trying to single you out. I'm not trying to make you feel bad. I'm merely trying to point out the obvious. I'm trying to point out the exact pattern that I was employing in my relationship, in my life. Because as men, what happens? We become super hyper focused on wanting it all. Sound familiar? You've told yourself this before. I want it all. I want to kill her body. I want to kill her sex life. And I want to make a ton of money. What else in the world is there, right? And so we tell ourselves this. Society hypes it up. Go on social media right now and tell me that everything that you see doesn't have to do with a better body, more sex, or more money. Seriously. Like, pause this and go to social media and tell me if that's not the pattern that you see. So we feed ourselves into this, right? And we start to gravitate toward these things, i.e. work, that we think our wife and our kids really want, that we think will make us elite. The problem is that we're getting these elite business skills, these elite work skills, and we're unable to do what? To translate them into our personal life. Don't believe me? Let me give you another example. His name is Tiger Woods. You may or may not know him. You probably know him. Okay, brief history on Tiger Woods. Phenom from like a child, a small child. His father taught him. He spent a lot of time on the golf course. We can go on and on. As he grew up, one of the youngest to win a major, has won 14, 15 majors, which is a big deal for those of you that don't know golf. I'm not super well versed in golf, but I played it. But listen, here's the thing. Tiger Woods has made hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars. Hundreds of millions of dollars. He had a wife, he had kids, everything was all smiley and awesome because he was super hyper focused on the golf course. He was lethal, right? That's why they called him Tiger, because he was always prowling and it was always business for him. And like he would intimidate other golfers. And some of his wins came by this intimidation, the sheer intimidation, like, oh, it's Tiger Woods. And what we didn't know at the time was what was going on in his personal life, which was he was struggling just the same as you and I. And so he would go home, we assume, and things weren't working. Or he wouldn't go home. He would go to Vegas, he would go somewhere else, and he would hook up with strippers, prostitutes. He'd go party. He'd go do all these other things while his wife and kids were where? At home. Now, I don't care if you make $1 million a year or you make $30,000 a year. If you have a wife and kids, there are certain things that will always happen. Your wife will want attention. Your children will want attention. And there will be certain responsibilities that no matter how hard she tries or your kids try, they can't do. It requires you. And so Tiger Woods, for whatever period of time, was in this world of fantasy, pretending that his life was working the way he wanted it to. But the truth is, he didn't know how to show up at home. He didn't know what it meant to be a husband and father. He just looked around and said, well, everybody else is doing this, and this is what I guess successful people do, so I'm going to go do it too. Until what? Until it all came crashing to the ground or crashing through the back window with a golf club. If you're not familiar with it, there were some incidences regarding Tiger Woods and his wife. She found out about all his infidelities. They had a big fight. She's trying to get away. He's throwing golf clubs through the window of her car. I mean, just crazy stuff. Now, I don't tell you this to bag on Tiger Woods because, again, Tiger Woods is no different from me. He's no different from you. I tell you this for one reason and one reason only. Tiger Woods had elite level skills on the golf course that he was unable to translate into what? His personal life. Every conversation that he had was based around winning more majors, winning more golf tournaments, the distance of the drives, how many chips and putts and all these other things that he had. Like, they were all centered around work, and he was comfortable around these work conversations. But very rarely would he have any personal conversations. Why? Because nobody ever teaches you how to have those. Nobody ever teaches you how to have the conversation of, hey, my wife, she's not really happy with me right now. Yeah, that's right. I picked ESPN over rubbing her feet last night. Or, yeah, I went and played golf on Friday or Saturday morning instead of going to my son's soccer game. And so you put yourself in these situations. You don't know how to get yourself out. And so what do? You go back to what it is that you know, which is work. How do you know a man is having trouble in his personal life? Well, look at how many hours he spends at work. Seriously. Every man that spends too much time at work is having issues in his personal life. I guarantee you. There's a man that I know, lives in California. He texted me the other day. He was at work at 2 o'clock in the morning. 2 o'clock in the morning. Now, please tell me what it is that you're going to accomplish at work at 2 o'clock in the morning. Talk to customers? Yes? No? Do a sales call? No? How about meet with investors? Maybe? No. In other words, we bury ourselves around the area and the space that we feel most comfortable in, that we feel that we have elite level skills at. I want you to consider something. I want you to consider that maybe your life isn't working the way you want it to, not because you don't possess the skills, but because you haven't learned how to translate those over to your personal life. Because I do believe that most men are really good when it comes to business. I do believe that most men possess the qualities and the capabilities to be really good or even elite husbands and fathers. They just haven't been taught how to do it. There's no book. How to take marketing and sales and translate that into being a good husband and father. Maybe I should write that book. But the book doesn't exist, right? Because we don't think about it this way. We think of them as being two completely separate things. But the truth is that they're interrelated. Tiger Woods, back to him. So he wins the Masters this last weekend, which is a big deal. He hasn't won a tournament in, 10 years? It's been a while. So he wins the Masters, and they start asking him questions. And what do you think the proudest moment of his win was? Mind you, it's been a while. He's gone through a lot of shit. What do you think the biggest deal for him was? And he said this. He said his kids watching him there, watching him struggle and watching him come out on top. His kids. Did you catch that? No, because most people don't want to talk about that. They want to talk about his drives and his putts. They want to talk about the fact that he won this much money. They want to talk about the fact that somebody made $1.8 million off a bet they made on him. That's what they want to talk about. Not the fact that Tiger Woods seems to have figured life out, seems to realize that the most important thing in his life is family. And he was able to leverage that into his professional life. So consider that the only thing that's missing from your life right now, your personal life, is your ability to translate your business skills back into your personal life, into being a better husband, into being a better father, into having a better body. That's it. See, when I figured this thing out, when I figured out how I could take my eliteness at being a police officer when I was a cop into my personal life, it was a game changer. It was a game changer. Guess what? All of a sudden, I was more connected with my wife. All of a sudden, my kids wanted to hang out with me more. All of a sudden, I didn't care about being at work and working overtime and working off duty and making more money. I really cared about only one thing, and that was my family. So consider that the way to get more out of your personal life is simply to learn how to translate and transfer those skills and abilities that you already possess into this other area. Don't know how to do it? I'd be happy to have a conversation. I'll share with you everything I know. Everything. Because at the end of the day, I want one thing and one thing only. And that's for you to be able to create the life that you desire. For you to have the outcomes that you want. They may be different than mine, and that's okay. But I want you to get what you want. And it is possible. All right, that's all I got for you today. As always, stay safe, and we'll see you on the next one.